all the legal hurdles, why don't you tell us how you would like the copyright law to be?
How would I like copyright law to be? I will get to that in a moment. But fixing copyright law is extremely difficult because among lawmakers and lobbyists there is still a strong perception that copyright is good, or at least it brings in a lot of money for the copyright holders, therefore it must be good. If you look at the USA, for example, they have lots of money that goes to China in particular, so lots of exports, and they actually have two sources of income, which is the weapons industry and the copyright industry. So the USA is rather attached to its copyright laws and will not easily accept any changes in copyright law if it means that the lobbyists from Hollywood will get less money. But I think we have to change copyright law, and it has to be done soon because we are creating a complete disconnect between what the law says and what actually happens. And what we see now is people in technical fields, people like you, going ahead and doing fun stuff, doing great stuff, doing creative stuff, but often illegal stuff, like hyperlinking or copying things, adding a picture to Wikipedia, or you name it. You are probably infringing hundreds of copyrights a day, even without realizing it. This cannot go on. This cannot be for a long time, because we will only create a complete disrespect for copyright law, and we will create a law that is completely at odds with current practice. So we need to change copyright law to make sure that it more closely fits with current practice. Now, history of copyright, I will not go into too much detail about that. It's long and boring, and I only read Van Nul tot Nu, so I don't know much about history. But copyright is today regarded as a form of intellectual property, or actually a form of property, more or less. I have created this presentation, therefore it is mine, and I alone decide what happens with it. So HAR is lucky that they can videotape it, because I gave them that permission. But somebody in the back was just photographing me. I did not give permission to do that, so I have the right to sue you, and if I want it badly enough, I can have you thrown in jail for that. So that's what copyright law says. This is completely wrong. I see some friends are making a citizen's arrest already. That's great. Okay. Thank you. So, yeah, I had a friend who always said, well, it's better to ask forgiveness than to seek permission. But copyright law does not work that way, unfortunately. And this is actually a big problem, because every time people say, hey, I can create this great mashup, or I can combine this with that, link that information to it, and then have my own iPhone application that can synchronize the weather with, I don't know, the train station, and it can tell me whether I should take a taxi or wait for a bus because it will rain. You are infringing copyrights. You are violating licenses, and you are doing things that are illegal, because all those sites and all that information is the intellectual property of their owners. And this is a big problem, because if you have to get permission in advance for every picture, every API you want to use, every piece of information you want to get from a website, or every sound file you want to reuse, it becomes impossible to actually get work done. Because getting permission for one book that you want to republish, we can do it. But if you need 40,000 pictures to create a mashup, you need to get 40,000 permission slips from people. That's just unworkable. But this is the way that the law is structured. Intellectual property, you create it, you own it, you decide it. Just like I decide what I do with my front lawn. And this idea of property has to do with scarcity. The idea is to create artificial scarcity, or maybe there's actual scarcity back in the days where you would print on paper. It's difficult, it's hard to print things, so books are more or less rare. It's hard to create books, it's hard to copy books, and therefore people that copy books should have protection in their investment. What you get from scarcity is people that act protective. I was going to use a silo, but then I decided I'm Dutch, so let's use a windmill. People hoard their own material. They put it in their vaults, and they are very protective of it, because if you lose it, you lose money. Every bag of grain that this miller has is his property, and it's valuable because he can sell it. And if other people take it, he has lost his flour or whatever it is, and he will lose money. So there's this idea of scarcity, of value because of scarcity. That is the current view of copyright. That is what is being protected today. But on the internet, there is no scarcity. There is no reason for that scarcity because everybody can copy and it costs you nothing. Everybody can give away and distribute things and it costs you, well, basically nothing because you can give it away for free and other people will give it away for you. It will go on BitTorrent, on Usenet, on all kinds of networks, and everybody makes it available to everybody else. So the old ideas that it's difficult and costly to produce things, the old assumptions that you need huge investments to print books and distribute books are no longer valid. And if the underlying assumptions are no longer valid, then the law that rests upon them also no longer is valid, or at least should no longer be valid. And it needs to be changed, it needs to be adapted to the new way of working, the new culture that we have. And some people say, yeah, but without a financial incentive, nobody will create anymore. That's the most frequent line from Hollywood and the music industry. People will no longer make music if they do not get paid for it. Well, that's utter rubbish. Maybe some people will no longer do it, but there's always people that will only produce things for money. But most people, most creative people, do it because it's fun, or maybe they have this internal urge, this drive that they have to publish their stuff, that they have to create their stuff. And they will give it away and they will publish it, and maybe they will give it away for free, maybe they will publish it for free, or maybe they will need some kind of financial reward. Sure. But what's wrong with seeking a new model that fits around the way that you, maybe what's wrong with finding a new model, a new way of making money, assuming that your work will be given away for free. For example, in the past, artists would make money by selling CDs. Today, CD sales have dropped, and what you see now is more and more concerts and public performances, because that's the way to make money today. There are more and more artists that give away their work themselves, or at cost, or even below cost. Just give it away for free, because people will like your music and they will buy a ticket to hear you play. That's a new way of making money with music. You can do the same thing with movies. Yes, please.
Do you also have a new model for writers, because they can't give like a concert of their writings or something like that?
Yeah. So what can you do for writer? How can writers make money under this new model?
Yeah, because it's mainly the publishing that keeps them going.
Yeah, a good question. What do you do for writers? Well, actually, I'm a writer myself. I publish a book and I publish a blog every day, and I give away my work for free. And my business model is that people will think I'm an expert, so they will pay me lots of money to give them advice for their specific situation. So that's my business model as a writer. My brother is a writer as well. He sells his books and then hopes that people will hire him to become a consultant. So that's a way to work. Yeah. So what if you're, so this is for non-fiction, as it's called. You promote yourself, your own businesses, you let yourself be hired. If you write pure fiction, like stories, well, it's a little more difficult because nobody will hire you to be a consultant if you write science fiction. Well, rarely anybody. You can have a reading, so you can sit on a stage and read from your own book, but many writers are not good readers, so I'm not sure if that's a valid business model. Yes, please.
Okay, so you asked what is wrong with that, and the answer is very simple. If you want to do that, current copyright lets you do that.
Yeah.
Current copyright lets me sell my books for royalties to a publisher. But if you change the copyright that your model becomes the only one, then it doesn't matter to you because you could already do what you want to do, but it does means that I am forced now to give away my stuff which I don't want to do. So your idea is stupid, so go away, don't bother.
So, okay, so ignoring the personal attack, if you want to do it this way right now, you can do it. You can waive your copyright, you can use a BSD license, or if you like Richard Stallman,